What living thing do you feel close affinity with?
It's always a tricky question. I think it changes quite often in terms of what animal best represents. And you could go for like the big sexy stuff. Um, but I think probably at the minute I'm some kind of communal invertebrate like a wood ant because we're kind of all working on little bits to build something big. And I don't know the extreme science behind wood ants, but I know they're very important to an ecosystem. And what we're doing here at Wild Finca is on a small scale, so like an ant. But what we're really trying to push is that there's this kind of myth about rewilding. I think that they think it's like apart from people. Um, so when actually we're very much part of the habitat, and we can be ecosystem engineers in a good way and a bad way. In some areas, we're invasive species, I guess. But the way we see ourselves here is that we are part of the environment, um, and like us doing our little bits helps everything else. Some bits we are completely hands off, but other bits we are kind of like chipping away and being the engineer. So yeah, I mean, wood ants, they're amazing because when you see them here, we have a few different nests that I know of, and they're these just like massive structures, but the actual creature's like this big, and they're always working away. And even now on a sunny day in February, they'll kind of like they come out, so they're always working away, even if you can't see them.
What is your favorite memory in nature?
That's a really tough one. Um, I've been very, I mean, I grew up in the UK, and we didn't really go on many exotic holidays, but we had like a great uncle die, sadly, obviously. But he was very old. And with the inheritance, my parents took us to Canada. Um, and I think seeing like orcas and, all the stuff that I'd seen on TV actually in real life, that's always like a lasting memory. And I think I was like 9 when we did that. And now I'm 33. And since then, I've been very lucky to like from the age of 17, basically travel all over the world, seeing incredible things. So it's really hard to pick one particular moment. I could do like a real quick top three. I don't think I could choose one. I'd say top three, a really quick top three would be. So I was working in Zambia filming leopards for 3 months. So I got to spend every day with a leopard and her two cubs. It was pretty amazing. But there was one particular afternoon where we hadn't found them. And normally, what I'd do is go hang out with the baboons because the baboons would alarm call. Um, and the day before, I'd seen this baboon troop, and there was this baboon that was like dead, basically. It was like dragging itself along. They're communal animals, so they're all together. Anyway, so we're sat by these baboons, and they're kind of like mooching their way across the plain, going up a tree. And yeah, basically all the young ones are up in this sausage tree playing. And then suddenly the female leopard, who was actually the older cub of the leopard I was filming, just burst out of the bush, went straight up this tree. And these baboons were like leaping like 20 meters out of the tree to hit the ground, and the adults were going up the tree to chase them out, to like distract her. And I was like, "Wow, this is insane." I was taking all the pictures. And then out of nowhere, this like decrepit baboon that we'd seen the day before came out. And I mean, baboons, when there's a predator, make so much noise, like so much noise, so that everyone knows there's danger. And I still to this day don't know why it did it. But yeah, this baboon kind of just beeline towards the tree. And the leopard just obviously stopped chasing, looked, and just came down the tree and bang, killed it. And to this day, I feel like there's such a unit baboons, and I wonder if that baboon knew. And I don't like anthropomorphizing it, but they're not unintelligent beings. And that baboon definitely, it wasn't coming back from its state, right? It was like dragging its back legs. It was like completely disheveled, no teeth. And to this day, I wonder if it went and did that because it basically sacrificed itself for the rest of the troop. Because the baboon came down, the leopard came down, killed it, and all the other 120 baboons were safe. So it was like a sad, like insane thing to see and quite sad, but at the same time, this kind of like, why did it do that? Because it could have just stayed in the bushes where it was, and probably that leopard would have eventually caught another baboon. But it literally came out and went straight to the tree. Probably a scientist would say that the baboon was so ill it was blind and deaf or something, and it didn't know what it was doing and went to the tree. But like, I think it was sacrificing itself for the good of the tree.
What got you interested in nature?
it's really cliche because I think so many people say it, but like I've always been interested in wildlife, and I think generally, like now having kids, like all kids are interested in wildlife, like from day dot. Well, maybe not when they're tiny, tiny baby, but like there's like a natural curiosity for nature, and unfortunately, a lot of people lose that. So I guess I've always been interested in nature, and then my mum was like an avid gardener, and even though we grew up in a city, we had like quite a nice garden, and mum would be out in the garden, and I'd be well, at the time, I probably thought I was helping, but now as a father, I don't think because now I suffer the same thing. But I was there. I was present in the soil. I used to have my sisters always tell a story of like confiscating animals off me. It was quite cruel, but I guess Gerald Durrell and people like that did it, right? I remember they tell a story of getting a goldfish bowl out of our really hot loft that was next door to my bedroom with this poor frog that I'd got from the garden just chucked in the water and like had in the goldfish bowl for an afternoon. But I think that was like a natural curiosity to like be close and have nature. I was actually really obsessed with fish. I still am. Like, and I've managed to indoctrinate my children into it. Like any patch of water, bridge, harbour, whatever, we're on the edge looking in to see what fish we can see. So I had loads of aquariums in my room and bred fish and like did stuff like like that. But yeah, but nature was always there. Birds growing up in the UK, that's like the main thing is birds.
What advice do you have for people looking to connect with nature?
It doesn't actually take a lot, no matter where you live. I know in some areas it may not be the safest place, and I'm very privileged in that way that I am the white male, basically. So I can, like, I've never felt that as an issue. I've kind of gone everywhere, and there have been a few places I've been, and I thought maybe I shouldn't have been going through there. But just getting out into some, I mean, it's not even nature isn't a thing that you need to go to. It is kind of everywhere. Even like a bit of moss on the pavement is nature. It might not be the most inspiring, but it is nature. So I always think like bird song, natural sound. If you could get them in that and like immersed in it, or just go out and do it and see and hear that and listen. And that's like a wren. That's a really good one. If you can see a wren singing, they're literally like that big, and they sit there on the top of a bramble and they just like, and their tongue like goes for it, and this like I don't even know how many decibels it is from this tiny little thing, like louder than a Bluetooth speaker, and it's a brilliant song. A little bit of mist coming out of their mouth or their beak.
What is your happy place in nature?
There's a particular spot just down by the ponds. Forest bathing. Everyone talks about forest bathing, but grass bathing should be a thing as well. And I do this thing, so grass bathing. Well, forest bathing, you just immerse yourself in nature, right? But for some reason, it has to be in a forest. But grass bathing isn't a thing, but it should be a thing. I just go and sit, and like if the right time of year, kind of end of May, June, the grass is kind of nearly a meter high in areas, and I just sit in it. Probably get covered in ticks. That's the only downside. Um, but like within a few minutes, you become a blade of grass, and you suddenly notice like the butterflies coming past, or like a little soldier beetle climbs up the grass blade next to you and flies off, or bird, and like that is very much my happy place, just becoming part of nature and sitting and watching and yeah, seeing what happens around you. And you can pass many an hour, and it's very productive for the mind.